Hey guys, welcome back to the Walleye Files. Brandon Ruffalo here. Super happy to be here with you. We've got a great show this week, and it is our last show of 2025. Kind of crazy. This year has flown by. When this started, I did not think it was going to balloon to what it is. So 11 months later, here we are. And we've got a great one for you. We've got a Tackle Talk Tuesday coming with Dan Harper and Mitch Daun. And we are talking fishing line. You know, something that isn't widely talked about. You know, you don't have a lot of podcasts or you don't have a lot of videos online just talking straight fishing line. Okay, you're talking a lot of tackle, you're talking a lot of baits, but I think fishing line gets a bit forgotten. So that's what we're doing this week. All the practical applications of monofilament, fluorocarbon, and braided line. Thanks again to our amazing sponsors, Lake Effect Lures, Striker Brands, Thunderhook Fly-Ins, Bellevue Spice Company, Image 360 and Crown Trophy of Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and Walleye Nation Creations. Without the amazing companies and support, we could not do this podcast. I could not do this without them. So thank you very much. Make sure you check all those companies out. They treat me incredibly well. Without them, couldn't do this. And of course, without you guys, the viewers, all the subscribers, all the followers, all the likes, clicks, shares, all the things, I'm just very grateful. You guys have grown this to be something really special. We've got a lot more coming up over the next 12 plus months. We've got some behind the scene footage on the National Walleye Tour, possibly. We've got maybe another trip to Thunderhook. We've got a lot of things on the docket for 2026. And I'm going to put a poll out there, actually. I'm going to put a poll out. If you're watching this on Tuesday, I'm going to put one out tomorrow, Wednesday, asking what you want to see in 2026 from the Walleye Files. So make sure you vote. And again, like I said, check out our sponsors. We appreciate all of them. Without me rambling too much more, without further ado, the boys and some fishing line talk. Thanks again for watching, guys. This episode of the Walleye Files is presented by Image 360 Inc. and Crown Trophy of Oshkosh, Wisconsin. For over 30 years, Image 360 and Crown Trophy have been Oshkosh's go-to for signs, vehicle graphics, custom apparel, and awards. Proudly serving northeastern Wisconsin with quality that speaks volumes. Your brand deserves to stand out. Let's make it unforgettable. Need signs that pop, graphics that roar, and branded apparel that turns heads? Image 360 and Crown Trophy in Oshkosh have been rocking northeastern Wisconsin for 30 years. From bold branding to epic awards, we bring your vision to life. Let's go. Love Image 360 and Crown Trophy. We've got Mitch Daun and Dan Harper with us today for a tackle talk about fishing line and the uses that we, whatever we put to use. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing well, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Happy to see you boys.
Good to see you guys too.
Dan, you were just giggling a second ago. You were way more happy than you're letting out to be.
Yeah. I don't get to see my friends very often, so it's always usually smiles.
Yeah. So I mean, jump right into it. Let's talk about line. We all have practical uses for fishing line, whether it's trolling reels, jigging reels, different sizes of casting reel, different methods. But we haven't done a tackle talk about fishing line yet, and I think that's something that needs to be talked about. I don't think there's enough information in the world about that.
I would agree. I'll get it.
I would agree. Thank you for agreeing with me.
Hey, three-ways are tough. It's like I can see Dan's like trying to figure out when to jump in. I'm like, let Dan go this time.
Oh, guys, we're just having a conversation between some friends about fishing line. That's all we're doing.
That's right.
So I think the first thing, obviously, most of us are pitching anymore. So I think the first one to talk about is just a braided main line. For me, I like the fire
Hold
line.
it this way.
There
you go. This episode of the Walleye Files is brought to you by Lake Effect Lures, the tackle that turns every cast into a catch. Built for serious anglers, tested on real fish, and proven to get bites when nothing else will. Get yours at lakeeffectlures.com.
There you go. Perfect. Braided fire line for me is one of the best pitching lines that I found. I used to be a Power Pro guy back in the day. I'm not going to do companies, but it's a little limp. And I found, especially when you're pitching into wind, that having this 8-stranded braid kind of keeps body a little bit better. It doesn't really let you have form wind knots. You can kind of make good, accurate casts. It's a strong line. It's a diverse line. You can use it with jigs and minnows, any type of crankbait process or practice. Pitching crankbaits, I do a lot of pitching off my dock in the wind, which is really kind of really fell in love with this particular braid, just because I can fire cast into wind and it kind of keeps the body. And doesn't really, I don't have to worry about it messing up a lot. As far as it goes, when I first started using live scope a lot, I fished this bright yellow color, and it's still probably on most of my reels. It just helps me line up my cast better as well to make sure that I'm kind of near where I need to be on my pitch angles. So for guys that are kind of getting into that game too, maybe a high vis fire line or whatever braid you like to work. Would be a good option.
Yeah, I agree. I like Suffix 832. That's what I like to run. I run like a 12-pound test. It's similar diameter to what you're using, and I think diameter is kind of the name of the game. That's the whole premise behind what we look at for line is we're trying to get the most efficiency out of the smallest diameter. And then again, like Dan said, I really like high vis, same color yellow or a bright green on mine. Can help you line up your cast. I like to see if we're in dirty water where I'm about to net a fish. That's kind of important. Mitch, thoughts?
Same thing. I mean, I use the Suffix 832 just like you, Brandon.
Yep.
I'll bounce back and forth between the Suffix and Cigar when I can afford it. That Cigar Smackdown is phenomenal, but that 8-strand, like Dan was saying, it just seems to be the way to go. Like you don't get as many wind knots. It's a little bit more smooth. You can cast a little bit further with it. I use high vis on 100% of my rods, just so I can see it for all the reasons that you guys are talking about too. And then I do pair it with a fluorocarbon leader. Here's a spool of trilene that I use, 100% fluoro. I will use mono sometimes. I also mess around with the Cigar that gets a braid X.
This episode of the Walleye Files is brought to you by Thunderhook Fly-Ins, the premium fly-in fishing destination in Ontario, Canada. Trophy walleyes, giant pike, and remote wilderness adventures await. Book your trip now at thunderhook.com.
As well. That stuff is tough. So like when I'm whipping glide baits or ripping wraps, I'll use a 15-pound test braid and then 15-pound test a braid X, especially if I'm going over rocks, zebra mussels, anything like that.
Right. So the name of the game, really for all line, and we're going to talk about stretch a lot today. You know, your percentages of stretch between braid, monofilament, and fluorocarbon are a big deal. So when I talk about a percentage of stretch, monofilament has like a 20 to 30% stretch rate. So for every 10 feet of line, you get 2 to 3 feet of stretch. For fluorocarbon, you have a 1.5-ish or a 1 to 1.5-ish foot stretch in it for 10 feet of line. And for braided line, you're talking 1 to 2%, which is really an inch or two or less.
Yeah, and to Mitch's point, I think my personal favorite is that Cigar Braze X 15-pound. That's like my super juice leader material for any type of glide bait action, or I love Harper rattles, and I fish those in a lot of cover. It's just a really good, strong line. You tie an FG knot, you get yourself 8 foot on there, and it's just gonna last. It's gonna do really well for you.
Yeah, I like the Abrase X2. I also like just the regular red label, and that's what I use for just about everything other than those glide bait type situations we're talking about. As far as, and we can just jump right into fluorocarbon. I mean, we're talking about it already. I run a 12-pound or a 15-pound leader, depending on what time of year it is. Early in the spring, I like 10 to 12 pound. I like that little lighter. Like you can get away with that lighter presentation, but later in the year, I feel like it's super important to run the 12-pound leader on your, or 12 or even 15-pound leader on your jigging wraps or ripping wraps or whatever. And then if I'm tying spinners, like I'm a huge spinner fisherman. I love it. I love trolling with spinners. I go 20-pound red label as well, or Braze X.
Yeah, that's a good point. When I tie spinners too, I stick with 15-pound, and I use the trilene for that. That's mostly what I use it for. But that Abrase X, I'll be throwing for the glide baits, anything else. I kind of go between 8-pound test, 10-pound test, and 15-pound test leader, depending on what I'm doing that day. A lot of times I'm pitching jigs on Lake Winnebago or pitching jigs on Green Bay, especially early in the year. I want as small diameter as possible, and that's also, I don't mean to change this from fluoro to mono. That's
No, go
also
ahead.
where I'll throw in some mono, not necessarily because of the stretch, but because it floats. Like you're getting a different presentation when that bait is down there. As long as your leader's long enough, it'll float a little bit longer. It's not getting that super sharp V. If you're jigging a crawler, jigging a minnow, it's more of a W shape when it's down there.
And to the point of leaders, I think you guys living up on Green Bay, you structure fishing a lot, so leaders are important for the abrasion resistance and all that stuff. Here on Lake Erie, especially when we're offshore in 30 to 70 foot of water, your leader material definitely can play a big role in helping you get more bites throughout the different times of year. So, like if I'm just fishing structure, or if I'm fishing fish higher in the column, or as a general start here with the 15-pound, if I need to get deeper faster on a not super hard action bait, I'll switch to like the Tatsu 10-pound. It's a little bit thinner diameter line. And it just helps that sink rate, get your bait down there, especially with like jigs and plastics and stuff and suspended fish. Um, and I think the thing that I've learned here, especially being able to fish the winters on that colder water period, that there is times where like the colder water, like this 15-pound, will take forever to get down. That water is cold. This line gets super cold, super firm. It doesn't react the same as it does in warmer water periods, especially if you have like a couple of different current layers. The water's cold, everything gets kind of buoyant. This can sometimes be a little bit too much to try to get down deeper. Switching to something a little bit thinner will definitely help. And then just as a side note, like casting cranks in the fall and the wintertime here, when it gets really cold out and you're making ice, having a braided main line can be a very big detriment. So switching to like, I'll just run like straight 10-pound fluorocarbon when I'm casting cranks at or below or near freezing. It doesn't make ice as much, and it gives you a little bit of stretch in that system, which will help you get more bites on your crankbaits as well.
It'll definitely help you hook up with more bites too.
Yeah, and that's when I use, actually I'll go to straight mono instead of straight fluoro. Similar to you, Dan, though, I'm switching when I'm throwing cranks. I'm going straight mono, typically like a 10-pound test, just for that stretch, and then also I'll use that straight mono for slip bobbers. Anytime we have to have slip bobbers out, but those are the only times where I'll be using mono, or I won't have a braid line on. Like 95% of the time throughout the fishing season, I'm running braid with some sort of leader.
Yeah, same here. I would say, other than slip bobbers or maybe pitching jigs very seldomly with straight mono, I don't have a lot of reason to do it. But casting a suspending jerkbait for smallies or for walleyes is one of those times where you want the bait to do the action. You don't need the line to make it sink anymore. So I if I don't want a bait that's gonna suspend, but my line's sinking faster than the bait's gonna sink, if that makes sense.
100%. And I think to the mono aspect, there's a couple different variations within that system. So if I'm trolling cranks, I like to run. I saw Mitch had that high vis advanced suffix mono. I think that's really important, especially if you're running board rods in waves like guys do here. Helping to make sure that your lines are all, you're tracking all your lines. You're not getting tangled. They're not catching another board. They're not doing this and that. And then also like in scenarios where like I run leaders on my trolling setups, I run fluorocarbon leaders here just because we have so many small fish. You don't have to get them, you can just hoist them in. But to see where your line, even in dirtier water, your bright green line coming into your leader, you're like, all right, cool, we got leader 3 foot to the fish, just swing them up. Or even if you got a big one on it, just helps you kind of time out that process a little bit too, having that super high vis. For like most of my applications, for like live bait rigging, I just like 10-pound Berkeley XT. This spool's a little beat up. She's done some work. It's just super strong. I've turned some guys onto that one too. It's not like a secret line. It just has a lot of great stretch. It's super, super strong. It's super affordable. Yeah.
The noise of that spool rolling around in the background was fantastic.
I tend to be aggressive on things. Sorry, I threw that down.
So, to your point, Dan, I do like a high vis line, but for trolling most of the time, I actually run trilene big game. I really like the 12-pound big game. It's the same diameter as XT, but I like this green color just for one. We have super clean water here, and I don't like pulling spinners. I want to be as subtle as possible. I want to be as stealthy as possible. If that's possible, if that's a thing, it's really not a thing for me. A little too loud, but yeah, I like that green color. That's what I like for pulling spinners. That's my favorite. And what I did find this year, and we've talked about it at length, you and I've talked about it on the podcast before, throwing death jig. Hey guys, today's show is brought to you by Walleye Nation Creations, lures built by anglers for anglers. From the death jig to crankbaits that drive big walleyes crazy, they've got the tools to help you land your next trophy. Make sure to gear up at walleyenationcreations.com. I like open water suspended fish throwing mono as a leader more so than I like fluoro nowadays. I don't run a lot of fluoro leaders. I will change my mono leader out a lot more just because I want that extra quarter or a half second to hover there. I want just as much time for that fish to make a decision as I can possibly get.
How about you, Mitchell?
That's all I got, man. I got kids screaming in the background.
I think the thing, just overall, too, anymore with the new advancements in line, is especially if you're a troller, or even if you're not a troller, but there's a lot of the trolling apps that you use to get crankbaits to depths that go off that 10-pound diameter, which is a 0.010 diameter. There's a lot of new lines on the market that have maybe a 15-pound break strength, but are still only 0.010 on their diameter. So there's a lot of things you kind of like want to pay attention to as far as choosing lines to make sure that you're getting the right one that's going to work for you for what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think matching your diameter with whatever type of line is going to be key for you to be the most successful angler you can be.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate it. Thank you for another Tackle Talk Tuesday. We will do this again soon. I think we're going to do jigs next time. What do you think?
That's good.
I like it.
Awesome. Well, boys, I appreciate you guys. And everybody else, thanks for watching. I appreciate it.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, guys.